Hello and welcome to the 9th tutorial in the series. Today we're going to learn how to create a bed or bed base for this room, and let's get started. The bed I'm going to create is this one. I found this photo in Google, so you can essentially build any bed you want, but in order to follow this tutorial, just go to the description tab and download this photo and follow what I do. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is to reset the scene, because I want to build a bed in a separate scene and then merge it. Next, you can see in YouTube that you have these lines here. This is a side effect of using gradients in Max while you record for YouTube, so I'm just going to go to viewport background and click on solid color. Now the lines disappear. You don't have to do this because in the monitor itself you don't see these lines, you only see them if you record to YouTube. Alright, so let's get started with the bed. What I'm going to do is build this base here and add this leg. Now in order to know the size of the bed itself, I'm going to use a mattress as a reference. So a normal mattress is something like 210 centimeters long over something like 170 centimeters thick. So I'm going to create a box to represent this mattress. This box, I don't need the snap, this box is going to be 210 over 170, and the height is going to be something like 20, that's fine. Alright. Next thing I'm going to create is this line here, the base itself. In order to do this, I'm going to go to the left viewport, I'm going to click G to hide the grid, and I'm going to create a line that follows this line. 1, 2, 3. Alright, let's create this line. 1. I'm holding shift so it goes in a straight line and not to the sides. If you hold shift it goes 90 degrees. 2, 3, 4. Alright, so this line represents this line. Next thing I'm going to do is create this roundness in the corners, which I don't have here, so I'm going to go to modify, going to click once and select this point. I'm going to roll it down and choose fillet. What fillet does is round the point. So this is about right, maybe a little bit less. Something like this is fine. I'm also going to round this one just a little bit less than this one. Like so. This is fine. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is make this line essentially this shape, 3D. In order to do this, I'm going to go scroll up and I'm going to double click once on this, enable in renderer, and once in enable in viewport. What this does is makes the line and creates a radial form from it. Radial form thickness is 1 centimeter, so you can make it higher or lower, but what we're looking for is not radial, it's rectangular. So I'm going to choose rectangular and make it the length much bigger because it needs to be bigger than the mattress. I'm going to change the realistic to shader so the shadows don't disturb us. And I'm going to make it something like this, a little bit more than the mattress, as you can see here. So let's make it 190 maybe. And you can center it. It doesn't need to be 100% centered. This is fine. Okay, so the length is fine, it's 190, but the width, the thickness is much higher in the photo. So our thickness is 2, let's try 10. And that's exactly right. Okay, so the thickness is 10, seems about right. This leg here is longer, so I'm going to go to the left viewport, click once and take this point a little bit down to create the leg longer. Maybe I'm going to take this a little bit down, like so, and I'm going to take this mattress down here and back. I'm going to make it shorter so it fits the reference photo like this. Alright, we basically created this form of this base of the bed. Next thing I'm going to do is create this leg here. So I'm going to go to the left viewport and just create a line, holding shift so the line is straight and not go to the sides. Now this line here needs to be exactly as high as this one because this is the ground. So I'm going to take this line, choose this point here and snap toggle it in the y-axis to here. So now this is stands in the same height. You can see it goes through and inside the line, so it doesn't go outside anywhere. That's fine. Last thing, I'm going to center it to the bed. So with the snap toggle selected, I'm going to move it on the x-axis to the center, like so. And next thing, you can see that this leg is shorter. It's not as lengthy as the bed itself. It's not 190, it's a little bit less. So we'll make it 175, maybe even a little bit less than that. 170, that's fine. We'll make it like the mattress. So the mattress is 170 and the leg is 170. Okay, now that we're done with the points and the lines, we're going to convert it to editable poly and add detail. I'm going to right click, convert to editable poly, and attach this leg here. You cannot attach it from any other point than this line, and that's because this is not actually a box. It's a line with a length and height segments assigned to it. So you cannot select from anywhere else. You need to select only the center line to attach, like so. And now the details I want to add are these. The first detail is this line here, second one is this line here, and the third one is this line here. In order to do this, I'm going to choose edge. I'm going to choose one edge on this line of edges, and I'm going to click ring. So now that rings all the edges that are in line with each other and selects every one of them until it goes back to the original line I selected. So this is fine. Now I'm going to connect them using a line, and I'm going to do two lines because we have two cuts here, 1 and 2, and I'm going to make it the distance between the lines something like 88 maybe. Needs to be almost exactly as the mattress, as you can see here. Alright, now I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to add the line here. So I'm going to select vertex and slice plane and rotate the slicing plane 90 degrees, like so. And if you look here, the cut is somewhere 2/3 of the mattress, so it needs to be like so. Slice. Maybe a little bit lower, but it's fine. Doesn't need to be 100%. We're not building this bed with measurements. We're building it from, we're sculpting it from our heads, so it needs to just look good. Let's make it a little bit lower, like so. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is create this dip inside the wood with using these lines, because it's not enough that I cut these lines into the wood, because once I click F4 or a render, you cannot see these lines. I need to make them visible. In order to do this, I'm going to click edge and select. All the edges are actually already selected, and that's because it selects all the edges I cut, so that's fine. Also, I have lines here that remained from before this was an editable poly, this line and this line, that I'm going to delete soon because they could mess with the form. and I'm going to, after this is selected, all the lines are selected, I'm going to deselect these lines up here. So I'm going to Alt drag and Alt drag and deselect them. That's because this cut in the wood here does not continue to the top of the back of the bed. Alright, so after I selected the lines that I want to extrude inwards a little bit, I'm going to click Extrude. Now I have two properties here. One is the height of the extrusion, which is going to be minus 0.1, something like that, minus 0. Minus 1 second, minus 0.4 maybe, and the other one is the opening for the extrusion. This is going to be 0.2 or something like this. Yes, 0.15, no, 0.2 is fine. And now, if I deselect and look at the form, you can see that it's cut exactly as it is here. This is what we were looking for. This is great. Next thing I'm going to do is round the corners a little bit because it's very sharp. It's 90 degrees. So I'm going to choose this edge and this edge and this edge and this one here. And I'm going to click loop, so it loops all the edges together into one continuous line. Now I said I'm going to delete this line exactly because what happened just now. Once I hit a loop, it looped this line here and continued looping to the other side. I don't want this to happen, so I'm going to choose this line here and backspace delete it, and same thing here, backspace delete it. Now again I'm going to choose this line, this line, this line, and no, I did it. Just 1, 2, 3, and 4. Loop. Okay, so I looped it so it connects to one continuous line. I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Loop. Okay, now two continuous lines are selected, and I'm going to hit chamfer in order to chamfer it a little bit to make it more rounded. 0.2 is good for our purposes, I think. 0.18 even, that's fine. Alright, so now as you can see, it's a little bit rounded, and that's enough for us. Next thing I'm going to do is round this leg. So I'm going to choose the element and choose the whole element of the leg and control click on edge. What this does is converts all the polygons that were selected whilst I selected the element and just selects the edges that touch them. So it's easier than to start selecting each edge separately. Just use the element, select the element I want, control, click on edge, and it selects the edges. Now again, chamfer, 0.18 is fine, and this is great. Alright, so now we have the basis for our bed here. As you can see, I'm going to delete the mattress for now because I'm working on the base of the bed itself only, and I'm going to save it so I can import it into our scene and add textures to it. Base bed. Alright, let's open the file we worked on until this tutorial, and let's click on import, merge, and let's merge the file we just created, base bed. It asks me what I want to merge from that scene. I have only one object there, line 001, which is the bed itself. I'm going to import it. It says the object named line 001 has the same name as an object in the scene. So we have an object in the scene named line 001. So just change the name of the objects I want to merge to bed, base, and click merge. Alright, it merged it, but it's not on place, so I'm going to take it up a little bit so it touches the floor, let's go to the left viewport and see. Alright, this is the floor. I'm going to take it back so it almost touches the back wall, and here like so. Left viewport again, take it a little bit further front so it doesn't touch the curtain, and let's see in the camera. Oh, that's not right. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Alright, and yeah, place it in place here between the two windows, something like this. It doesn't need to touch the back doesn't need to touch the wall. It needs to be something like here. And front viewport, I'm going to take it down a little bit so it touches the floor. Let's see. Yes. Alright, so this is the base of our bed. Next thing we want to do is create the texture for this base of the bed. So I need to create a texture which is essentially a wood, very dark wood, and give it reflections that are blurred out, like so, and maybe add a little less reflections in areas that can catch dust, like these lines here, so it looks more realistic. Okay, let's start with the material. First of all, let's search for this texture online. So let's put this here, go to our browser, and CG Textures is a great site for textures, as we discussed in previous tutorials. I'm going to go to wood, and let's choose fine wood maybe. Try to find something that looks a little bit like the wood. You know what? Before we go to CG Textures, let's just search Google, because Google is a great tool. Wood, maybe dark wood texture, and go to photos. Oh, that's great. Much faster. So we need a photo of wood for this bed, something like this one maybe. No, it's too small. Now I need it to be in a resolution. Second, in a higher. It doesn't need to be very high resolution, but it needs to be higher than it was before. So 581 over 900 is fine by me. Anything less than that is not good enough. Let's try maybe. No, a little too much cartoonish. Alright, my first instinct was right. I think this one is great. Let's try to use this texture. I'm going to save it on the desktop. Let's call it wood, and let's go to Photoshop. I'm going to open the file I just downloaded. Alright. Next thing I'm going to do is open the reference file for the bed. I'm going to try to make the color as close as possible. So let's see what we have here. First thing, let's choose this color. Sample it. Just click on the sample tool and click on place, and it samples the color. Let's go back to the wood. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to fill it up with the color we just sampled. So this is essentially the base color of the bed in this point that I sampled from. Now what I'm going to do is use this color and apply it to the layer beneath it. So now, as you can see, we had the base layer, and now I change the color so it fits the color of the bed. Next thing, let's do it normal and 50. I also need to make the lines of the wood less visible, like here, you almost don't see them. So I don't need to use the color actually, I just need to make it Oh, you know what? 100. Let's use it as a color. Right click, merge down, and again let's create a new layer, fill it up with a color, and now let's make it 80%. So you see the color of the bed and you see the lines, but they're very much harder to see than before. Now it's not quite this red, so I'm going to merge this down and go to image, adjustments, hue saturation. I'm going to make it less saturated, more black and white, something like this, and lightness, less light, so it becomes more dark like this would. Maybe a little bit more saturated, 30, minus 20. Alright, so this is what it was before, and this is much more like the wood in the picture. Alright, so we have our base wood. Let's save this. Next, I'm going to go back to Max, and I'm going to create this material. So let's choose a blank material, and let's call it bed base wood. I'm going to change it to Vray material. Alright, I'm going to apply a diffuse color using the PNG file we just created. I'm going to use bitmap, go to desktop where I saved the file, and choose wood. Now you can see we have the material of the bases of the bed. I'm going to apply it to the bed itself. I'm going to click show shaded material in viewport so I can see it on the bed, and isolate selected so I see only the bed. Go to perspective viewport and see what we have here. Now I want to align it on the bed so it goes like in the picture. The lines of the wood go 90 degrees to the floor. So let's use the UVW modifier, UVW map modifier, and choose box because it needs to go like a box. Let's go to the left viewport or front viewport, and let's click on it. And once it's blue, when you change the direction or move the box, it doesn't move the bed itself, it moves only the UVWs. So I'm going to make it 90 degrees. No, it was fine, the lines went like this, it's okay. And let's make it 100 over 100 over 100. See if it's fine. Yep, I think it's good. Let's rotate it like this, so the lines here also go to this direction, and the lines here also go this direction, and that's fine. Alright, let's unisolate it, go to the camera, and let's add a little bit of reflection like we see here. So I'm going to add reflection, maybe something like alright, I think I'm going to use the Fresnel reflection, which is already clicked. What this does, as I explained in the previous tutorials, is reflects more on an angle than on the front when you look at the material with your face fronting it. So this is the way reflections work in real life. When you look at glass, when you're 100% in front of the glass, you will see much more reflections than when you look 180 degrees on a glass. It looks almost like a mirror. So the same thing for the reflections on the bed. I'm going to use a Fresnel reflection, and the reflection I'm going to make very high, maybe 100%. And glossiness, reflection glossiness, what this does is blurs out the reflections, because the reflections are not like a mirror here, they're very blurred. So I'm going to blur out the reflections to 0.75, very blurred out. 0.7 even. No, 0.8. Let's start with this. And a little less reflection. I think I made it a little bit too much. 151. Let's try rendering out this part of the bed and see how it goes. As you can see, we have nice reflections here on the wood, blurred out like here. And you can see the lines, like in the photo, these lines and these lines here, you will see them in a second. They are very blurred, which is fine. We have low subdivision for the reflections, so you have many spots and dots here. We will fix this in a second, same way we fixed the floor before. But I think the reflection is fine for now. Alright, let's try. Let's cancel this for a second and make a subdivision for our reflections much higher. 32 will be good. And let's render this out, the entire image, and see how the base of it. Before I do that, check out the color of the bed. It may be too light. I may need to make it a little bit darker, or the color just needs to be, yeah, a little bit darker. So I'm going to go back to Photoshop and I'm going to make it a little bit darker. The brightness contrast, make it -10, so -15, like so. I'm going to save it, and once you save it in Photoshop, it automatically changes the texture here. So this is it for the base of the bed tutorial. In the next tutorial, which will be up very soon because I'm doing these two tutorials back to back, we're going to create all the cloth for this bed. So in our case, this is going to be the mattress with these little imperfections in the mattress, and the pillows, and finally this like clothes or something on the bed to add character to the scene. Alright, so enjoy the final render image and wait a day or maybe 2 for the next tutorial. Thank you.